What is good, YouTube? Welcome back to the Sports Scoop. Today, we are going to be recording our Week 5 NFL predictions. The season is already going by so fast. So for this video, Kian and Dylan cannot be on it. So I'm joined by my co-host, Charlie and Idell. Charlie, how you doing?
I'm doing great, coming off
Yeah.
another high, another Giants win. So they're doing fantastic.
So we're going to go into our Week 5 predictions. So let's just get straight into it. With the Thursday night football game, you've got the Indianapolis Colts against the Denver Broncos. Charlie, what do you think?
Colts, Broncos, I think these are two pretty, average teams. I'd say below average teams. I'm going to pick the Broncos for this one because I think the Colts are missing their best player. And without Jonathan Taylor, they're not going to be able to get much going offensively, and defensively, they haven't impressed me. So this one's a pretty easy one for me, and I'm going to go with the Broncos.
Yeah, this is the definition of actually, I don't know if it's even the definition of mid, because I think the Colts are going to be really struggle without Jonathan Taylor. But I think the Broncos, again, a team that just offensively just hasn't looked very good and definitely hasn't played up to expectations. Apparently, also Javonte Williams, another running back that apparently has a serious injury, which is obviously sucks to see. But I think Denver have more talent on the offensive side of the ball, and I think being at home, they'll be able to squeak out a win. But I don't think these are I don't think these teams are really that good.
No, they really aren't.
Yeah. Now moving on to the London game, 9:30 a.m. and you've got Charlie's New York Giants against the Green Bay Packers. So Packers barely beat the Bailey Zapp-led New England Patriots, and the Giants obviously getting a win against the Chicago Bears, who really, I know they were 2-1. They're not a very good team. So Charlie, what do you think going into this game?
I really don't know what to think because you see Giants Packers on the schedule at the start of the season. You're thinking Packers 100%, that's a win. But the Giants have started off the season really well, and the Packers have not. I think Aaron Rodgers has looked worse than Daniel Jones to start the season. And Saquon Barkley is the best running back in the NFL right now. And the Giants defense played really well. And I think that, not letting the Bears score a touchdown all game long. And I think Leonard Williams should be back next week. So should Kadarius Toney, potentially Wan'Dale Robinson as well. We're going to see a Giants defense that's got all of their starters. We haven't seen that all season. And I think with Thibodeau and Williams and Ojulari and Dexter Lawrence on that defensive line, it's going to be really tough for the Packers to run against. And I think that's their main weapon so far this season. I, really like my Giants. And while I think that this game could go either way, I'm just going to pick the Giants because I'm a fan. I really don't, have a reason other than that. I think the Giants have looked better than the Packers this season. I'm going to pick the Giants.
I think you picked the Giants every single week so far this
Week
season.
1, I did not.
Oh, so
Week 1.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they've been 3-1. They're off to a very good start. I'm gonna go with the Packers mainly just because of their defense. I think their defense is gonna be really do well. Although they were solid against the Patriots, but then again they had Bailey Zapp. They're going against a better quarterback in Daniel Jones, who also picked up an injury, but I'm assuming he'll be playing for week 5. And then obviously you've got to contend with Saquon. Right now, he looks like one of the best, if not the best running back in the NFL so far. And I think Rodgers, obviously, receiving core doesn't look great. It's very inexperienced, but I think one guy that's really shined so far is Romeo Doubs or Dubes, however you say it. And I think he's going to kind of be the difference maker in a Giants cornerback room that isn't particularly strong. So it'll be close. Give me the Packers, though. Close, though. Now moving on to the first of the 1:00 games, you've got the New England Patriots hosting the Detroit Lions. Two, again, very interesting teams. I'll be very interested to see whether or not it's Brian Hoyer or Bailey Zapp. Charlie, what do you think? What are your thoughts going into this game?
I am surprised that the Patriots were able to keep the Packers so close. I mean, I know the Packers haven't looked great. We just talked about this, but the Patriots haven't looked much better. And without Mac Jones, without Brian Hoyer, it was Bailey Zappi. And I think, the Patriots clearly aren't that bad. They clearly know how to win games or keep games close at least. And I think that's Bill Belichick's doing. However, I think the Lions have looked a lot better. Amon-Ra St. Brown should be back for this matchup. And I think that's a big part of what the Lions were missing this week in their high-scoring game against the Seahawks. Didn't look great defensively to let Geno Smith and the Seahawks score that many points. But I'm going to have to go with the Lions in this one. I think the Patriots aren't going to be able to stop, an offense that's looked pretty high-powered for the Lions.
Yeah, the Lions have been kind of I think some people thought they were a breakout team, but their offenses looked like they've been a top 5 offense in football so far. And obviously, they still scored 45 points, even without having guys like DeAndre Swift, Monroe St. Brown, and DJ Chark. And they'll get, I'm assuming, 2 of those back. Chark and Amon-Ra should be back. I don't think Swift will. But that offense is scary. And I think the problem, though, is their defense. It's been, I think, scoring wise, the worst in football. And I think the problem with the Patriots is that they're going to have an offense that, whether or not it's Hoyer or Zap, that's not really going to be good enough to kind of exploit that defense that really has had a lot of issues so far. So, yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think the Lions are going to go into New England and beat the Patriots, which is not a sentence you hear very often in
Yeah,
football.
seriously.
It's strange times indeed. Now, moving on to the next game, you've got the Cleveland Browns hosting Los Angeles Chargers. Charlie, what's your thoughts?
I don't like the Browns so far this season. I think Nick Chubb's looked really impressive. But I overall don't think that they've looked very good. The Browns really a mediocre team. I mean, to lose to the Falcons and Marcus Mariota this week,
Yeah.
it's just like something has to be wrong to lose to the Falcons, okay? And the Falcons are not a good team, and the Chargers are a good team. Now, the Chargers beat the Texans. They almost let up a comeback. That would
Mm-hmm.
have been really something to
Mm-hmm.
watch. But I think the Chargers are just a better team than the Browns right now. I think it should be a good matchup. I think we could see a good game, but I think Justin Herbert's going to be a little bit harder than Marcus Mariota to stop.
Yeah, this is my upset pick. I'm gonna go Browns here, and I think the reason why is just the Chargers are way too inconsistent, and a lot of people were touting them as Super Bowl contenders going into the year, but they just obviously, I know they're dealing with injuries. I know they're missing Joey Bosa. They might be getting Keenan Allen back, which is obviously a huge get for them, but they've just overall looked very inconsistent and haven't been able to play necessarily great complementary football that we know that they can do. And I think going to Cleveland, going to the Browns to, have probably again another if if you don't think Saquon's the best running back in the league, you've got to think right now it's Nick Chubb because he has been so electric for them this season. I think he could really do a lot of damage against the Chargers defense that is really relies on the pass rush, but it's still got a decent bit of holes. So I think Cleveland are going to they're going to pull off an upset against the Chargers that I feel like are very prone to them. But now moving on to the next game, the Houston Texans are going to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars. And even though the Jaguars lost, they do look like a team that's probably the favorites to win the AFC South. And I will say this at the beginning of the season, and I was telling my friends this, that I thought the Texans were a better team than the Jaguars going to the season, and that was a mistake. The Jaguars definitely look on the right path. They look like they have a pretty good defense. Obviously, the offense didn't really click, but obviously it was bad conditions in Philly, and the Eagles are one of the best teams in the league. Um, but the Jaguars definitely look like the favorites for the AFC South, and being at home, give me Jacksonville. I think again, Trevor Lawrence has looked like the best quarterback in this class so far this year. Got guys like Christian Kirk, who's really showed out, and Zay Jones as well. Running backs. I know James Robinson didn't have a great game, but he's overall had a really good start to the season as well. So yeah, give me the Jaguars here, Charlie.
Yeah, I think in Jacksonville, it's going to be hard for Houston to go to Jacksonville and upset this Jaguars team, a Jaguars team that looked really good against the Eagles this week. I think, Christian Kirk was shut down in the beginning of the game. He had a couple catches later on in the game, but I think Christian Kirk is one of the players who we were all so shocked at the deal that Jacksonville offered him this offseason, making him one of the highest paid receivers in the NFL. And he's lived up to it. I can say that
Absolutely.
fully. He has lived up to it so far. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL right now, and he's playing so well. And I think Trevor Lawrence is also playing well. James Robinson is playing well. The defense has been okay, a lot better than last season, and I think that the Texans have not looked nearly as good. I think the Texans have looked good, but not nearly as good as this Jacksonville Jaguars, who,
Yeah.
yeah, you said it. I think they're looking like the favorites to win this division right now.
Yeah, especially with how the rest of the AFC South has really played so far. I think they've got to be the team to
Mhm.
beat so far. But now moving on to the next game, an NFC South matchup, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are currently trailing 21 to 10 to the Kansas City Chiefs with Kansas City at the 1 yard line. So it's not looking good for them right now. That could easily change. And then going against the Falcons, who just pulled off a win. I think that's back to back now for them. So they're 2-2. So really not as like wide of a match, like not as easy of a pick to say, but I would say that Tom Brady owns the Buccaneers. So I think I got to take Tampa here. But two teams that really aren't as it isn't like a gimme, like you have to say immediately, oh yeah, Bucks easily win this because the Falcons aren't necessarily as bad as people thought they were going to be going into the season.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you. I think this is a pretty gimme game. I think that the Buccaneers should
Yeah,
win this game pretty handedly. I know they haven't looked very strong to start the season, but it's Tom Brady versus Marcus Mariota at quarterback. And if you're picking
yeah,
Marcus Mariota in this one, I know it's not just the quarterback. Dylan will get mad at me for saying that, but if you're picking Marcus Mariota in this matchup against the Bucs defense, who are just so good,
they are such a
I
good.
think there's I'm not going to say something wrong with the pick because if the Falcons do win, it's going to make me seem stupid. But I
Yeah,
think this is an easy one for me to pick, and I'm going to pick the Buccaneers. They're just a better team.
yeah, I would agree there. I just think the Falcons they haven't been as bad as thought, but now
No,
going on to
yeah.
a game which I think is very easy to predict: the Pittsburgh Steelers coming off a loss to the Jets against the Buffalo Bills, who had a come from behind win against the Ravens. The Bills, I think, obviously didn't look necessarily good, but they found a way to win. That's what great teams do. I think going against the Steelers team that just it does not look good at all going the season. I think Buffalo are going to win it.
Yeah, I Buffalo coming from behind is never something I thought I'd see because I would have thought Buffalo would just be ahead
They're
already.
always leading.
They always seem to be ahead, and it seems to be the other teams that come from behind, like when the Chiefs beat them. But I think Buffalo Bills, they're just too good right now. I know Minka Fitzpatrick for the Steelers has looked like probably the number one safety in the league so far.
Yep.
Up there with guys like Talanoa Hufanga, who's looked really good. Uh, but I think, the Bills have just looked too good to stop right now. I know the Dolphins beat them. That was a crazy upset. I think the Bills are going to be mad. They're not going to want it to happen again, especially not against the Steelers in Buffalo. Give me the Bills in this one.
Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, the Steelers did upset the Bills week one last year, but I think that's a fluke. I can't see it happening again. Moving on to the next game, we've got the New York Jets facing the Miami Dolphins at MetLife. Charlie, what do you think about this?
Jets Dolphins at MetLife. I think it'll be a good game. I think that the
Mm,
Jets have looked. It's an interesting way the Jets have looked. I think they've been in a lot of games. They're two
yep.
and two this season, but I think the Dolphins have looked a lot better.
Yep.
Tua's not going to be a quarterback for this game. We know that for a fact. That would just be utterly insane.
Reckless.
Like, I'm sorry, that just would be insane.
He should
But
be back soon, though, apparently, which
I
is.
think for just a couple weeks, I'd rest Tua.
Mhm.
But after we saw what happened, but
Oh, yeah.
I think even with no Tua at quarterback, it's Teddy Bridgewater who, you know, the experience gives him the edge over Zach Wilson, who hasn't exactly looked strong. The Jets came from behind in both victories this season. Um, I think the Dolphins defense won't let them come from behind to win this one. I think if the Dolphins get out to a hot start, the Jets aren't going to be able to guard Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. There are not many teams in the league that can, if there are
I
any.
don't think there are any.
Um, and I think the Jets are going to struggle more than most with this one. I'm going to have to take the Dolphins.
Yeah, I think the Jets really, again, Zach Wilson first game back struggled at first. It really was under a lot of pressure, but found a way to come back. That fourth quarter was really, really clutch. He was perfect then, but going against the Dolphins team, just so good on paper. Obviously, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, like you said, I don't think there's any team that can really cover both of them. Even a cornerback duo that's been really good, like Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. I still think they'll find a lot of trouble doing that. And I think Teddy Bridgewater, you could do a lot worse with a backup than Teddy Bridgewater. And I think he will, I hate to say it, but I think he'll do enough to beat the Jets. I think the Dolphins, like I said, obviously, I think this was probably the best time for Tua to miss time because this is an easier stretch of games. So obviously, love the Jets, but I think give me Miami here. Now, moving on to the next game, you've got the Minnesota Vikings hosting the Chicago Bears. So, Charlie, what do you think?
Easy one for me. I'm going to take the Vikings. And Justin Jefferson had a very massive week one, and he showed me why I picked him at number 3 in our fantasy league, which, I thought was kind of crazy at the time. Massive week one, went quiet weeks 2 and 3, but then again was big in week 4. And I think, Kirk Cousins is going to have no trouble giving him the ball against the Chicago defense, who couldn't keep the Giants under 20 points. And they didn't score a touchdown. The Bears did not score a touchdown against the Giants, which just isn't promising. They're had a pretty awful showing in the red zone. Cairo Santos hit 3, I believe, 30 or less yard field goals today against the Giants, which is just never something you want your kicker to be doing. And I think that, against the Vikings offense is better than the Giants offense. The Giants exposed this Bears defense. I think the Vikings will do it too. Give me the Vikings.
Yeah, I think really it's yeah, I think the Bears obviously they are 2-2, but I mean, I don't think
Don't
they
know how.
they're not a very good 2-2 team. And I think the Vikings again really had to kind of sweat it out in London against the Saints, but they found a way to win. They're a very good team on paper. I think they'll just prove too much for the Bears. Give me the Vikings here. And moving on to the next game, you've got the Tennessee Titans going to Washington to play the Commanders. The Commanders are 1-3 to start the season, and going to play the hosting the 2-2 Tennessee Titans. Who, I mean, they're 2-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't looked great. But Charlie, what do you think about this game?
I think this is a tough one for me to predict because I think the Commanders have looked like potentially the worst team in football. I think they're
I can't agree.
borderline. They're a bottom five for sure right now, and I think they're gonna struggle with Derrick Henry. I don't know who doesn't, the Giants, but I think that the Titans haven't looked much better than the Commanders. To be fair, I in Washington, give me the Titans.
Mm,
It's a tough one, and I think it could go either way. But for me, Carson Wentz, I've never been a fan, and he's, proving yet again why I'm not a fan, and he's
exactly.
just not that good. Give me the Titans.
I agree. I'm gonna have to go with the Commanders though, because I think even though they're a 1-3 team, they've got a lot of talent at the skill positions. You got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel, all who are great weapons. The team around him also with Gibson, Brian Robinson, a huge guy that could be coming back. He could be another dimension of that power run offense. And then Chase Young. I think those are two big additions that are coming to Washington. And I think they've got talent. I don't think they're a bottom five team, but they've played it like it so far. So obviously they're 1-3, but I think going against the Titans team that again, I don't think are very good. Give me the Commanders. Yeah. Give me Washington. Moving on to the next game, a game between two teams that aren't very good. I think not too hard to slice it here. The New Orleans Saints against the Seattle Seahawks. Saints really just they were almost there. They were almost there against a solid Vikings team, but in the end, Dalton could not lead them to a victory in London. And then Seahawks who did win, they did win, and they put up 48 points. So, you know what? Maybe I'm not giving enough credit to the Seahawks, but they had a good week. DK Metcalf had a very good week. So going to this game, yeah, I don't know who's gonna be a quarterback. Also, I don't know if James is gonna be healthy. I don't know if they're even better with James or without James, but um, yeah, I'm gonna go Saints. I'm gonna go Saints because they're the home team. Not very confident because I think both teams are not necessarily very good. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, I don't like either of these teams. You all know my opinion on the Seahawks. I've said it since week one. I think they're a really bad team. I'm surprised they beat my Lions today. I think the Lions have looked much, much better than the Seahawks.
Yeah,
But I think, the Saints haven't impressed me either. I'm not a big fan of the Saints this season, but that makes this one tough for me to pick. I think DK Metcalf, Marshawn Lattimore should be a good matchup. If we do see it, I think it'll be a weird matchup, and I think that's one that DK would probably dominate, considering he's got about 6-7 inches on Marshawn Lattimore. But I think I'm gonna go Saints on this one. It's a tough one, but I think this could be a really low scoring, boring game
yep.
that the Saints, they win it like 15-7. Like it's just no one wants to watch that. And, even if I'm a Saints fan, I'm not going to watch that game. But I think I'm going to have to pick the Saints in this one. I couldn't really tell you why, though.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think they're a slightly better team. Another not great matchup. 49ers, Panthers. Obviously, Niners. We're not going to see them. We're not seeing them until Monday night. And the last we saw of them against the Broncos did not look very good. Panthers, they did not look very good. And obviously, I think their win against the Saints was really a fluke. I mean, both the Panthers, I've always said it. I think they're a bottom five roster in the NFL. That offensive line isn't very good, and the offenses really seem to just be CMC because Baker can't find DJ Moore, and that's just obviously a problem. And San Francisco, I mean, they're not a bad team. They're not a bad. I mean, they haven't played good though on offense actually. So I don't know. A boring game, I would say. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely going to be a boring game. I think Christian McCaffrey hasn't looked all that impressive. And I think that's, partly because the Panthers offense is pretty terrible with the exception of him. And defensively, they're not great either. They're better than offensively. The Niners haven't impressed me. Jimmy G at quarterback. I mean, we'll see how he plays tomorrow. But in Carolina, give me the Panthers. I think this is a game that the Panthers, even though they might only win 5 games this year, this is one that I could see them winning. It just feels right seeing the number higher for them on the scoreboard. I couldn't really tell you, but again, as you said, another boring game, and I could really see this going either way. I could even see it being a blowout for one team, like 21-0, but
Yeah.
not a fun game to watch.
Yeah, I think there are two reasons why I'm going to pick the Niners. Actually, three. I think they easily have better coaching. Matt Rule is one of the worst coaches in the NFL. Two, I think Jimmy G is slightly better than Baker Mayfield, who has just looked awful this year. Jimmy G hasn't looked good either, but he's looked better than Baker. And three, the Niners have a much better defense, aka they have Nick Bosa. And I think
Right.
that will be the difference in this game. And I think the Panthers offense is just going to struggle to get anything going. So give me San Francisco there. Now moving on to the next game, you've got the Arizona Cardinals hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. Not a bad matchup. I mean, I know the Eagles are the last undefeated team. They're a good team, but I think the Cardinals, with Kyler Murray, they're a dangerous team. Don't sleep on them at all. Charlie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this will be one of the tougher matches the Eagles play all year because,
It's an
they
easy
don't
schedule.
play many tough matches. Um, I think the Eagles may have the easiest schedule in the league, and I don't think this game will prove much of a challenge. We've seen Darius Slay is playing, like he's the top corner in football right now. I think he's, easily one of the top three. And I think that's going to be difficult for Marquise Brown to split him open. And Marquise Brown's been the main offensive threat. Well, potentially the only offensive threat so far for the Cardinals. Zach Ertz hasn't looked bad, but they've had virtually no running game. James Conner is, not it for me right now. So I'm going to go with the Eagles in this one. I just think offensively, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are the best two receivers. I think probably the best receiving duo in the league behind Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle right
Yep.
now.
They've looked so good. And I think the Eagles as a whole have just looked like I said, one of the best teams in the league. I mean, they're the last undefeated team in the league.
Yeah.
So they've looked really good. I feel like this is kind of a trap game, though, at the same time. Going to Arizona, a team that, you know, is can really they have some firepower, but at the same time, Eagles are just such a well-built, complete team that I've got to pick them here. I think it's a really tough game. It'll be a tough game, and I think the Cardinals will make it a close game. But I think the Eagles' defense will prevail, and I think Jalen Hurts, who's had a very good season, will prevail. Again, like you said, that receiving core is just so good. That offensive line is so good.
And they
So yeah,
finally got their running game going this week,
oh
too.
yeah, exactly. Miles Sanders had a very solid week. Two
Yeah.
touchdowns, I believe. It
Two
was
touchdowns.
two
And Gainwell
touchdowns.
had one on the ground as well. So
Exactly. Now moving on to the next game, you've got the LA Rams against the Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys go on to win again. They've won three straight
Cooper Rush.
with Cooper Rush. So maybe a quarterback controversy. I don't think so, but he's looked solid. He's looked solid, and I think they are very capable of winning. And the Rams, again, another team we're not going to see till Monday night, but going off of last week, they did find a way to edge out the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, Charlie, what do you think about this one?
I think this Cooper Rush is undefeated as a starter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not for long. Okay. This
Yeah.
Rams team must be able to stop Cooper Rush.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay. The
really high on
Cowboys
the
have
Rams
beat,
though. I just
but the Cowboys have beat who? They've beat the Giants, the Commanders, and the
Bengals. I mean, that's
Bengals.
that's solid.
Okay.
That's solid win. That's solid win.
I just, the Aaron Donald's different. Okay. Aaron Donald is different than anything the Cowboys have ever faced in their lives, except for probably the last time they played Aaron Donald. So I am going to say it every week. Aaron Donald is, potentially the best player in the NFL. So it's going to be hard to stop him. I know the Cowboys have a really good offensive line, but Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard have looked good, but not good enough for me to think that Cooper Rush can rely on the run game again or just rely on CeeDee Lamb because, Jalen Ramsey plays for the Rams too. So I'm going to go with the Rams in this one, though I could, definitely see it being close or maybe even the Cowboys pulling out a win.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the. This is a tough one. I'm gonna go with the Rams. Close though. I think. Actually, no. I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna go Cowboys.
Okay,
I
in
just
LA as well.
because I think yeah. But let's be honest. The Rams never really have a
Yeah,
home
that's
field
fair. It's
advantage.
basically in Dallas.
But I think that Dallas defense has looked good so far. Trayvon Diggs has looks like a top 5 corner so far this season. And that's
Micah
that. I mean,
Parsons.
he's looked Micah Parsons, absolute animal. Demarcus Lawrence has looked good too. I think that defense is gonna be able to slow down a Rams offense that other than Cooper Cup, I mean, what really is there? I mean, it hasn't looked very good. And that defense, obviously, Aaron Donald's going to be a test. He always is. But I think they're going to find a way to get it to CeeDee Lamb. They're going to find a way to get it to Michael Gallup. I think Zeke and Pollard, they'll find a way to get them involved. I think, yeah, the Rams just haven't looked very good, and the Cowboys have looked more impressive with Cooper Rush, especially on defense. So, yeah, give me the Cowboys here. And now moving on to the Sunday night game, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals going to Baltimore, a huge game, division implications. Winner, I believe. Oh no, the Browns are there too, so never mind. But winner goes tied, at least tied for first in the AFC North. So huge game here. Charlie, what do you think about this one?
I think this is a tough one. I think if I had to pick an MVP candidate, like if I had to pick MVP right now, it might be Lamar Jackson. So it's going to be tough to pick against him right now, playing at the top of his game. And you know what? If it's going to be tough to pick against him, I'm just not going to do it. I think I'm going to have to go with the Ravens and Lamar. I think they've looked better than the Bengals. I have not liked the way the Bengals have started the season. They've won 2 straight. I think that'll end in Baltimore this weekend. And, Lamar Jackson's just too good right now.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he was good. He was still good. A week against Buffalo, even though in a losing effort. I mean, 20 for 29, 144 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. But I think again, 73 yards on the ground as well. He is such a dangerous weapon going against Cincinnati, who, I mean, they've picked it up. Started off 0-2, did not look good, but they've recovered. They now are back at 500, and again, season just restarting and going into this one, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I am going to go Ravens with a home field advantage. I think that defense will be able to slow down Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And again, Lamar, like you said, what a weapon. He is just so dangerous on the ground and in the air. And I think it'll be too much really for any team to handle, but I think it'll be too much for Cincy to handle. And yeah, give me the Ravens here. And finally, going on to the Monday night game, we've got the Chiefs against the Raiders. Like I said, now it is 28-17 in that Chiefs game, but the Chiefs have looked very good offensively against a very good Bucs defense. The Raiders picking up their first win against the Denver Broncos. Again, pretty mid team, but they're on the board. They're on the board. I'm gonna go Chiefs here. I think the Chiefs are just flat out a better, more complete team than the Raiders, and especially at home, the Raiders just can't beat the Chiefs. So I don't see why it would change now, especially considering the Chiefs they look like the same. They're still the Chiefs, and the Raiders obviously got their first win, but they've still been disappointing so far this season. So yeah, give me KC.
Yeah, I think this one should be pretty easy. The Ravens have had the Raiders, sorry, have had 4 close games. They've only come out victorious in one of them. And I think this one probably won't be a close game. I think the Chiefs are better than the Raiders, especially in KC. It's hard to beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead, okay? It's almost impossible to do it. It's definitely impossible to do it in the postseason. Obviously we're not in the postseason right now. So the Chiefs at Arrowhead, this is, the Raiders looking at their schedule going into the season. They're looking at this game and they're saying, okay, this is one of our losses. And I think, any team going to Arrowhead, it's one of their losses. So I'm going to have to pick the Chiefs. I think it's just too difficult to pick against the Chiefs in this game.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think they're just the Chiefs. They're just such a hard it's hard place. It's Arrowhead's a hard place to win, man, especially with a team like that, especially with Patrick Mahomes as the guy. But that is it for the video. Again, if you enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We post there pretty frequently. And yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching.